Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live, and we're on a little short road trip right now. Well, not necessarily short, but a road trip. And we are traveling with 2 ducks. We are traveling with 3 cats. We're going to have a 4th one with us, but he decided that my arm was a chew toy and demanded to stay home. So, oh well. And of course, 2 dogs. Fun, right? Anyway, so keep us in your prayers. We really appreciate that. Also, too, Jana is started a series over on her Odyssey. These are exclusive videos on her Odyssey channel, and she loaded up one this morning on the theocracy that Israel is definitely going forward with. Amazing video. So go to the description. I've put the link there for you so you can see that. And you know, something I thought I would share with you is just like a testimonial. And by the way, too, I meant to show you guys, right? And I didn't do it as of yet. There, remember when we prayed for the fig tree there at the house? And then I showed you how after I prayed for it, it started to get little sprouts and stuff like that. I'd been gone for like 6 weeks, right? I came back home, full bloom everywhere. It was just amazing to see what God will do when you pray believing. Anyway, what I wanted to share with you is, and this is just kind of a, I don't know, just something I thought I'd do. And what brought this on was, I was talking to my daughter about something about gas. I don't know what it was, something about gas. And I told her, I said, yes, you know, I nearly died one time from inhaling a lot of gas because gas will totally take all the oxygen out of your lungs. And that's a scary thought there. But anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you just several times in life that God has spared my life, and I thought it might be an encouragement to you, and no doubt many of you have similar stories as well. My sister used to always say, "You're the miracle child. You should have already been dead by now." So I'm like, thanks a lot, right? So I'm going to back up just a little bit in time, and one of the first stories was when I was 2 years old. My sister was 4 because we were 2 years apart. She passed away a couple of years ago, and I truly miss her. Her name was Laura. But anyway, we were in the Smoky Mountains. Our parents had taken us on a little camping trip up there, and me and my sister were walking along the edge of a mountain where there's a huge drop off to a running river down below. And somehow or another, at least my sister still remembered the story vivid. Even though she was only 4, she could remember the story very vividly. But I slipped and fell over the side. And she was, of course, holding my hand. And she was screaming for my mother because she's laying on the ground because I knocked her down when I slipped and fell. And I'm just dangling over a cliff. And, of course, my mother runs over there, rescues me, keeps me from falling. And my mother used to tell the story as well. She said that, she said, I don't know how in the world you did not die. She said, if it hadn't have been your sister holding your hand, she said, you would have plunged to your death. She said it was a huge drop. And she said, of course, down below were the rocks and stuff. She said, you just should not have made it. Then another time in life, we were, of course, it was when we lived in Castleberry, Alabama. And in those days there, the house, we lived in a very old home anyway with fireplaces in practically every room in the house. But a lot of those rooms had been converted to gas heat. And my mother went up to the little store. Her friend Doreen and Charles, they owned the little convenience store. It wasn't really a convenience store, like an old mom and pop type store. And I think Riles was their last name, if I remember right. Doreen Riles and Charles Riles. But anyway, she goes up there, which is just right down the street from the house. And while she was gone, my sister, we're sitting in my bedroom, and she turned the gas on. And she had seen my mother light the gas heater before. And I'm, let's see, how old was I at that time? I was about 8 or 9 years old, so, you know, I mean, and I remember as well. And we're sitting in front of this gas heater, and she strikes one match after another trying to get that thing to light. And it just doesn't light. My mother comes back home, and as soon as she opens the door, she can smell the house filled with gas. And she rushes to find us, and then she sees us sitting in the floor in front of the gas heater, and my sister striking one match after another. And why we didn't just blow the whole house up, my mother says to this day she never could. Of course, she passed away as well, but she said her whole life she never understood why we didn't die from that particular event as well. Just so many times in life, automobile accidents. Oh my gosh, I've been in severe automobile accidents in life. Two in particular. One when I was in, second grade. We were hit. My mother worked for the Coca-Cola company, and my dad dropped her off at work one morning. She was a bookkeeper. And as we're leaving, it's pouring down rain, and he couldn't stop. And he went right out in front of another car coming, and it was right on my door that hit, and just totaled the car, just completely destroyed the entire side of the car, because the other lady had no ability to stop. I remember being a lady, and my sister had to have 32 stitches put in her face from where the glass just ripped her up, and I walked away without a scratch. Another car accident. My stepdad was in Louisiana, Houma, Louisiana, no doubt. We were living there. I was in third grade. We moved there for about a year. And my dad was taking my mom's car and seeing if he could jump bridges. Gravel road, but the bridge is, of course, not gravel. And he would get up to about 85 miles an hour and see if he could get airborne enough to go across the bridge. Well, he lost control, and of course, if you've ever known anything about Louisiana, canals everywhere. But roughly 85, 90 miles an hour trying to jump bridges, and you lose control, it's a bad day. And the car just went flipping down the road, and we ended up in the canal. The car ended up back right side up. I don't know how many times we rolled, have no idea. But I was third grade, I think, at the time when that happened. And again, my dad and the guy that was with him, and I was not wearing any seatbelt. I remember when he started to lose control of the car, I thought he was goofing off, and I'm like, Dad, cut it out. Stop goofing off, or something like that, I said, right? And all of a sudden the car's just rolling, boom, 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 and I'm flopping everywhere inside of this car. And then finally it comes to a stop. There was a policeman coming from the other direction, and then my dad tells him a lie. He tells him, oh, I was trying to avoid a cop. And I'll never forget the cop saying this too. He said, I would have ran over the cat, you know? And of course, if it was really true, but it wasn't. And I guess the policeman had no idea of how fast we were going at the time. But again, I still bear some scars on my right hand from that, my thumb. But it was very small, but deep enough to where I should have had stitches, but you know, it healed up without having to have it. But I still have those scars from that particular accident there. But other than that, nothing else happened. Jeff, our neighbor that was with us, his back was ripped to shreds. I mean, he looked like Swiss cheese or something. Really, really bad what happened to him. And then there was another event. Scott Keith, childhood friend. We've been lifelong friends. And went to school together from middle school on up. We were in high school. We were skipping school like bad little boys and going out to the woods to go hunting and stuff like that. Of course, we never really hunted much. We just went out to the woods because we could do it. And we decided to target practice that day. And we put the targets up and stuff, and we'd been shooting a little bit. So I don't know exactly what had happened, but I had dropped something on the ground, and I reached down to pick it up, and when I stood back up, Scott had already thrown his shotgun up to his shoulder, and he fired the gun right when I stood up, and the blast just took my hair right off the top of my head. That's how close it was. And I literally thought he had hit me. Because, I mean, we're point blank range, and he wasn't trying to, but he, just irresponsible, I mean, we were kids, and of course I'd been taught a lot of gun safety with my dad, but Scott had not, but that was a very, very close call, where, it's amazing that I didn't get my whole head blown completely off that day. There's just been so many. I've been in tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. None of those were life-threatening, though. But drowning. I've had 2 drowning events in life. That was the other thing, and I'll never forget one of them. My son, who is now 37 years old, Dominic, was a little bitty boy at the time. He's my oldest son. He's a history professor now. And by the way, that speaks a lot for homeschool. All my kids have been homeschooled, and Dominic, he's doing his doctorate now in history, and there's a lot to be said when you homeschool. It ends up being some of the smartest kids ever. But anyway, he was he was about 2 years old at the time, and I was fishing at a trestle. A railroad track trestle, and it was where it goes across a bayou, and there was no way out of there. You either had to climb back up the rocks to the train trestle to get out, or nothing else. I mean, period. And I did what we called mullet fishing using a cast net, and my net had got hung up on the bottom. So I had to swim out to where I threw it at, where it got hung up at, and I'd done it many times before. And then dive down and go down and unhook it off of the rocks. Sometimes it'd be old pilings and things like that where they get hung up at. And Dominic, he's, like I said, he's just a little bitty guy. And so I swam out and I told him, I said, you just stay right there. I said, Daddy's going to get the net off. All right, be just a second. And I went down, and when I did, my leg got hung up in the net. And I couldn't get out. I tried everything I knew to do to get out, and the more I tried, the worse it got. And I realized at that point there, I probably wasn't going to make it. And so I began to pray, and I said, Lord, I said, if it's my time to go, I don't mind going. I said, because I know I'm ready to go. I said, but my little boy, I said, he's just a little bitty fellow. I said, Father, I said, that little guy, I said, he won't know what to do. He'll come looking for me because he's so little. And I said, he can't get back up that train track himself. I said, God, I said, if you'll just let me free so I can get him home. I said, and if it's my time to go, just take me another way. And next thing I know, as soon as I prayed that, my leg was just free. And I came back up. And I'd already ran out of the ability to hold my breath any longer. And another event that happened, I was actually a teenager at the other one. There was a tropical storm blew in, and we went down to Pensacola Beach. During that tropical storm, me and a friend of mine, Ronnie Payne. And Ronnie was a couple of years younger than I was. Actually, he's about 4 years younger than I was. But he was our neighbor and wonderful, wonderful kid at the time. Grew up to be a great man. Just a good man, I should say. And but anyway, Ronnie, he liked to body surf. Now, he was good at it. Not me. So I can swim real well, but I wasn't good at body surfing. And of course, the waves were about 8 foot, I'd say, at least, if not up to 10 foot. They were huge because of the tropical storm coming out of the south. And in the old days like that, you could get away with stuff like that more than you could today. But I got out there, and I ended up, those waves were so close together. Next thing I knew, I was being pounded down. And I couldn't figure out which way to go up. And there's a pier there called the Pensacola Pier, and we ran right there, is where we went in at. And I'm being tumbled, and I could not tell which way was up, which way was down, because the waves just had me pushed down constantly. And I'm fighting hard to try to find the surface, and I can't find the surface. And I realized I wasn't going to make it. I got to the point where I'm like, I can't hold my breath any longer. And again, I was just praying. I said, God, I said, I guess this is the end. I said, I never wanted to drown. I said, but I guess that's what's going to happen this time. And I ended up I had to breathe the water because I could no longer hold the breath any longer. So I breathed in the water, and I must have breathed 2 times. And I hadn't blacked out yet. And then suddenly my foot hit sand, and I was able to kick out. I was able to get up, drag myself up on the beach, coughing out water like crazy. And when I finally got my senses back, Ronnie was freaking out, wondering what had happened to me. I was drugged down, because there's also a rip current with it. I was drugged down at least a half a mile down the beach where I came out at. And so that was another time. And I know there's some other ones that I'm forgetting about right now, because like I said, I've had so many near-death experiences, it's just not even funny. But anyway, I thought I'd just share some of these things with you, because you know, the thing is when God's called you for a reason in life, there's a reason that we have to serve. And even I'd have to say, well, not leaving out the last one there, the very one that cost my father-in-law his life. And me and my wife should have died as well. In fact, my wife especially should have died, because she got far more of that deadly substance than I did. But again, God was merciful, because even I believe with all my heart that God has called her to help wake up people about the evils that Satan is doing through the elite of Israel. And I believe that's why we continue on. And of course, Satan has always come against us. So pray for us. We do need your prayers. And don't forget to check out the video that she did there on Odyssey. The link is in the description box below. We love you. We thank you. We thank you for your support too. Your support means the world to us. If you go to our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org, our mailing address is there, Danoon Institute, P.O. Box 156, Sunbright, Tennessee, 37872. Or you can donate right there online, depending on how God lays it upon your heart. Be looking forward to sharing some messages with you this weekend. Don't know exactly how God will lead as of yet, but God bless you, and thank you for listening.